like 18 years, something like that.
18 years. What age did you move there?
I wanted to learn the martial arts. I wanted to learn healing, herbology. When you came into a martial arts dojo to do uchideshi and that kind of thing, I mean, boy.
Steven Seagal was once the ultimate action hero, breaking bones on screen and dominating the martial arts world. But behind the spotlight, a darker narrative began to unfold. Explosive on-set clashes and controversies that shattered his larger-than-life persona. What went wrong? Over time, the cracks in his perfect action hero image grew deeper until these shocking allegations came to light. Steven Seagal's career, once defined by his on-screen action hero persona, began to unravel as accusations of sexual misconduct surfaced, casting a shadow over his image. These claims span decades, with incidents alleged as early as the 1990s and reignited during the Me Too movement in 2017. In 1998, actress and model Jenny McCarthy recounted an unsettling experience during an audition for Under Siege 2. According to her, Seagal asked her to remove her clothing, claiming it was necessary despite it not being part of the script. As McCarthy described it in an interview with Movieline, Seagal told her, "You need to take off your dress. We need to see your body." McCarthy, who was taken aback by the inappropriate demand, said she refused and quickly left the room. Seagal has continued to deny the encounter, labeling it as fiction. Years later, during the rise of the Me Too movement in 2017, actress Portia de Rossi came forward with her own story involving Seagal. She alleged on Twitter that during a professional meeting in his office, Seagal unzipped his pants in front of her. The claim resonated deeply, as other reports of similar behavior emerged around the same time. Another well-documented account came from actress Juliana Margulies, known for her work on The Good Wife. In an interview with SiriusXM, she recalled being lured to Seagal's hotel room late at night under the pretense of a script reading. Once there, she realized she was alone with him and described feeling intimidated. While nothing physical happened, Margulies said the scenario made her deeply uncomfortable, cementing her distrust of such setups in Hollywood. When confronted with these allegations, Seagal has consistently denied any wrongdoing, dismissing the stories as baseless attempts to tarnish his reputation. He has publicly claimed that the accusations are part of what he calls a witch hunt to discredit him. These accusations, brought to light by multiple women, not only raised questions about Seagal's behavior, but also highlighted a broader culture of silence and intimidation in Hollywood. For many, these revelations became a turning point in how powerful figures in the industry were held accountable. In 2010, Steven Seagal faced one of the most damning allegations of his career when Caden Nguyen, a 23-year-old former assistant, accused him of human trafficking and sexual misconduct. The explosive lawsuit claimed that Seagal hired her under the guise of a professional assistant position, only for her to discover that her role allegedly involved meeting his personal and sexual demands. Nguyen detailed in her lawsuit that Seagal maintained what she described as a harem of young women in his home, handpicking and employing them not for their professional skills, but to satisfy his personal desires. She also accused Seagal of assaulting her multiple times during her brief employment in his service. Following these incidents, Nguyen stated that she fled the job immediately after realizing the environment she had been brought into. The allegations painted a grim picture of systemic abuse, as Nguyen claimed Seagal operated in a way that left these women feeling powerless and trapped. However, it's important to note that the case was settled out of court, and while no formal guilt was established, the accusations caused significant reputational damage. Seagal's legal team dismissed the claims as ridiculous and absurd, and labeled Nguyen's lawsuit as a calculated attempt to extort money from a celebrity. Despite his denial and the lawsuit being quietly resolved, the allegations left an indelible stain on his public image, further reinforcing a growing perception of Seagal as a controversial and polarizing figure. Although resolved, this case stood as an unsettling example of the allegations that have surrounded Seagal for years, and contributed to the public's growing scrutiny of those who use their power and influence inappropriately. The accusations echoed larger cultural conversations about systemic abuse in industries where fame and authority can be weaponized, further eroding Seagal's legacy. Steven Seagal's reputation for being difficult and confrontational extended beyond his personal life into his professional environment. On movie sets, he was often described as aloof, domineering, and dismissive toward colleagues, developing a reputation for arrogance and a lack of professionalism. Several accounts from co-stars and crew members paint the picture of a man unwilling to collaborate and obsessed with asserting dominance, both verbally and physically. One of the most infamous incidents tied to Seagal's behavior involves renowned martial artist and Hollywood stuntman Gene LeBell. Known as the godfather of grappling, LeBell alleged that he had an altercation with Seagal during the filming of a movie in the early 1990s. The story goes that Seagal, boasting about his martial arts skills, claimed to possess an invulnerability to being choked out, insisting that no one could apply a chokehold that would incapacitate him. As the tale unfolds, LeBell, reportedly at Seagal's challenge, applied a rear-naked choke to test the claim. Seagal allegedly lost consciousness and, according to multiple witnesses, even suffered the embarrassing aftermath of involuntary urination. While Seagal has vehemently denied the incident, calling the story a fabrication, Gene LeBell stood by his account. In interviews, including those with MMA Weekly and Fighters Only magazine, LeBell shared a subtle yet telling comment that continued to fuel speculation. "You can yell at me, you can sue me, but don't lie to me. I'd rather hurt you with the truth than comfort you with a lie." The martial arts community largely rallied behind LeBell's story, further tarnishing Seagal's already fragile credibility within industry circles. This incident, widely discussed but officially unverified, became a part of the lore surrounding Seagal's on-set reputation, not just as a martial artist, but as someone unwilling to back down from conflict, even when his claims seemed questionable. These clashes and accusations of physical intimidation cemented Seagal's reputation as unpredictable and difficult to work with, casting a long shadow over his collaborations in Hollywood. Whether the story with LeBell is exaggerated or not, it serves as a telling example of how Seagal's ego and behavior consistently placed him at odds with those he worked with. Throughout his career, Steven Seagal developed a reputation not just for his unpredictable on-set behavior, but also for controversial legal battles stemming from accusations of intimidation, abuse of power, and unprofessional conduct. Multiple colleagues, from actors to production staff, have described Seagal as a challenging and often manipulative presence, both during filming and off-camera. One such account comes from journalist and actress Lisa Guerrero, who publicly described an unsettling audition experience with Seagal. She explained in an interview with Newsweek that during the 90s, she was informed her audition for one of Seagal's projects would take place at his home, an unusual and uncomfortable request in itself. According to Guerrero, the situation became increasingly inappropriate, as Seagal allegedly made manipulative and boundary-crossing attempts to direct the audition process to suit his personal desires. She ultimately walked away, later noting that her decision to stand up to him might have cost her significant career opportunities. Such accounts were not isolated. Reports from directors and producers have chronicled Seagal's unyielding demands and erratic behavior on set, which often disrupted productions. He was known for arriving on set late or, at times, refusing to perform scenes as written without significant changes made to suit his preferences. In interviews, some former collaborators implied that working with Seagal meant accommodating his ego or risking a derailed schedule. Additionally, lawsuits have dogged Seagal throughout his working life. Several former employees alleged that he used his position of power to exploit or threaten them, and there have been claims of contract violations due to Seagal reportedly abandoning or failing to fulfill agreed commitments on projects. These legal disputes, even when settled out of court, contributed to Seagal's growing reputation as a problematic figure in both Hollywood and the martial arts community. Despite the denials from Seagal's camp, these consistent reports of manipulative behavior and professional misconduct have fed into a broader narrative. For many of his colleagues, the off-screen Steven Seagal was a far cry from the disciplined, heroic characters he portrayed on film. A rogue who often seemed more focused on controlling others than delivering the performances audiences once admired. By the late 1990s, the weight of allegations, on-set scandals, and legal troubles began to take a significant toll on Steven Seagal's once thriving career. A household name during his peak, Seagal's credibility in Hollywood diminished rapidly as his reputation for problematic behavior overshadowed his early box office successes. Studios and directors grew increasingly reluctant to work with him, and he soon found himself pushed out of mainstream cinema. One of the most notable changes in Seagal's career trajectory was his shift toward direct-to-video films. After failing to secure the kinds of leading roles he once enjoyed in Hollywood blockbusters, Seagal began starring in a flurry of low-budget action movies that were largely released without theatrical distribution. This pivot marked a steep decline in the prestige of the projects he was tied to, as these films garnered little critical praise and appealed primarily to a niche audience. While these productions kept him working, they failed to reignite his status in the broader entertainment industry. In the 2010s, with his opportunities in Western markets waning, Seagal turned his attention overseas, particularly to Russia. Embracing his ties with the country, he developed a highly publicized relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Seagal praised Putin's leadership and was granted Russian citizenship in 2016. This relationship earned him a measure of relevance in Russia, where he continued to make public appearances and promote martial arts events. However, his alignment with Putin's regime was heavily criticized in Western media, further cementing his status as a controversial figure.